Welcome back, everyone. I'm Davin, the sales executive here at Kirkham Iron Tech, and we have our fearless founder and CEO, Tom Kirkham. And we have a good topic that we want to talk about today, and it's on the topic of continuously refining your defensive measures for your company. And with all the business owners here, that's something that they may have not thought about, or they're starting to think about as becoming more relevant. Talk to us a little bit about that today.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of things. There's a lot to that best practice. Continuous defense refinement is a best practice. It's not just me saying it. It's, standards, and it's what all of us in the cybersecurity industry know that. Okay. And that's what the recommendations are going to be, no matter who you talk to, or at least it should. If that's not a recommendation, you're not talking to a security expert. Okay. But here's a couple of mistakes that I frequently see businesses make. And one of them has to do with the objectives of IT versus cybersecurity. And that revolves around software updates or patches and security updates, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Windows, Mac OS, whatever applications you use, they have vulnerabilities that are discovered and they have to be updated. And from an IT perspective, because we all have updated Microsoft Office products or Windows and it breaks stuff. So IT's objective is to make the company more profitable and efficient and just keep it running. Mm-hmm. That's what your investment in IT is there for. So what needs to happen when those updates become available, a risk analysis has to be done. What do I mean by that? I mean, that's reading the release notes, understanding what that vulnerability is, and in what environment it can be exploited in. Mm-hmm. So, more often than not, it's going to be an exploit that's rare in the real world. It might be impossible in your particular business environment, but every so often, you can't wait. It's a 0-day threat. That means It's already been exploited in the wild, and we just now hear about it, and we just now get the patch on it. And then you look at the environment and say, oh yeah, that's likely to be exploited in this environment. You simply can't wait. So if you're managing your IT properly, your company has a maintenance window, like on the weekend or real late
after hours,
2 a.m. It does all the updates and the patches and all that. And that's fine in most cases. But if you don't read those release notes and understand exactly what it's addressing, you may miss one that you need to do at close of business that day or right now. Now, those don't come around very often. The close of business ones probably come around more than you think. But if you need to do it right now, that you've got to stop everything. And you got to take the chance that everything's going to work right. The servers are going to come back up normally. They're going to function properly, and you just hope nothing breaks, because the risk is simply too great to wait until close of business or the normal maintenance window. And I see that a lot with companies that don't treat security as job one.
Yep.
They treat productivity and efficiency as job one. And that's, I'm not singling anyone out. That's our society's been doing that for decades. Okay. But it's a different world, has been for a few years now. And you really got to treat security first. You remember the old days? Well, you don't remember, Davin. But back in the 80s, there was this big, everybody was all up in arms because all these states were passing seatbelt laws. Mm-hmm. Well, back in the day, hardly any state had that requirement. But I think they were going to get cut off from federal funds if they didn't raise the drinking age and enact seatbelt laws. I may be misremembering the details. But in any way, everybody's all up in arms. Nobody can tell me what to do in my own car and all this. They went ahead and did it anyway. Everybody got accustomed to it. And here we are, 30 years, 40 years later?
Everybody wears one.
No one. Well, it's not only that, you don't even think about it. It's not even a topic for debate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, cybersecurity awareness and cybersecurity defense and that adoption of a security as job one culture is like seatbelts were in the 80s. And that's what I do every day is to try. And that's what we're doing right now.
Yes.
Is educating everybody and get everybody to treat this seriously. We're talking about, you know, you may think that, well, I can afford a $5,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 ransom. That's not all the damage. You may think that your insurance is going to cover a cyber attack. It's not. They've got limits on what they're going to do, and you're just going to have to.
They're denying a lot of claims too. That's a whole nother conversation.
They're denying claims. They may not pay the ransom, or they may not pay for productivity losses. But imagine if your reputation gets destroyed, or the Office of Civil Rights comes in, your personal injury attorney got a data breach. You've got ethical violations with your state bar. Then the Office of Civil Rights comes in and says, you let medical records loose. Here's a fine for you. It's not a debate. They're not going to try to coach you and make you get better. They're going to issue the fine. The Office of Civil Rights doesn't mess around, and nor do many of the other regulatory agencies. And the regulations are increasing. So why put off engaging, you know, installing an EDR and engaging a skilled security team? Because with a skilled security team, they're going to keep track and do a risk analysis on these updates. Okay. Along with all sorts of other things, they're going to keep track of threat intelligence. Who's the new threat actors? Russia has been on my mind for over a year, well over a year now. I'm frankly surprised we haven't seen more attacks from Russian, the nation state. Now, the criminals from Russia, they haven't ever stopped. I think they've increased every year. They increase their attacks. But with that's another reason why it's no longer do it yourself. And when you're talking about the very viability of your company continuing to be a viable entity, about half of the companies out there that suffer a breach will go out of business within 6 months to 2 years. I want you to just chew on that a little bit. Cybersecurity is not something to be cheap about. You want to do best in class. You want to follow international standards, and you want a skilled security team to make sure you do those things. And then when you have compliance and regulations that you've got to follow, you're going to be ahead of the game. If you fail to act today and you're going to wait until you're required to do it, you may suffer a catastrophic, almost fatal, or fatal attack in this 1 or 2 year period. And we mentioned this in another video about AI in the next year or two is really going to change the game. I think regulations in the next year or two, practically everyone is going to be under some sort of regulation to improve cybersecurity.
No, I 100% agree. And you focus heavily on cybersecurity and how things are changing. And when we're talking about objectives between IT and security, we're not trying to take away anything from an IT provider or your IT person or your IT team, simply because they have their objections and they have their focus, which is productivity and keeping the business efficient and up and running. But when it comes to cybersecurity, they may pay attention here and there, but it's not their main focus. And so having that cybersecurity team to keep up with updates like Tom's talking about and make sure you have the best in class practices in place, you put those two, your IT and your cybersecurity together, and now you have a secure business, but you also have a productive and efficient business. And that's now what you need to have a successful organization here in 2023 and going forward. And that's just going to be the way you have to do business if you want to be successful.
That's all good points. And you know what? I think that's a topic for our next recording.
I think that's good. Yes.
Yeah. Now we don't have any control over what order they get posted. Okay. The editor is going to do that. She'll figure all that out. But on this moment, it's the very next one we're going to do. So hopefully you'll find that, and you can learn a little more about IT versus cybersecurity. I think most people have concerns around that. Like, I've been using this IT provider. Some of our clients have been with us 20 years.
Yeah.
I've been using them for 20 years. I'm not changing. They do a damn good job, right? And that's fine.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to talk about on
Yes.
the next one.
Well, tune in. I know these are just little tidbits of information, but we have lots of other videos. If you want to learn more, make sure and go check those out. But we look forward to talking to you all next time.